How are you, prospectors? Tony Pilkington from Gold Talk Lee and Aura. Just heading out onto one of our work sites and following on from the internationally acclaimed success of our SPL video, I thought I'd try and do another one along the same lines. I've got a bouncy bit going on there. I don't know how that's going to work. Anyway, it's good fun. So what I wanted to talk about was a real nitty-gritty part of prospecting, which won't affect a lot of people, but it's a problem with the system that prospectors pay the price for. It's only going to affect tenement holders or potential tenement holders, and to a lesser extent people that want to work under tribute on someone else's tenement. It's a bit of a hard one to explain, so we'll see where I wind up with it. But basically it's to do with excess tonnage. When a lease is granted, if it's a mining lease, then it's unlimited tonnage. Right? So that's easy, and it's not affected by this as much. But when a P or an E, so a prospecting licence or an exploration licence, is granted, you have automatically granted a certain amount of tonnes to engage in ground disturbing activity. So with a P, it's 500 tonnes, and with a exploration licence, it's 1,000 tonnes. The idea being, if you want to do some drill holes, you need to drill some sumps, dig a costine, do some bulk sampling, what have you. Then that's rubber stamped, guaranteed, that's what you're going to get. Anything beyond that, then you have to apply for excess tonnage. So in the case of an exploration licence, let's say we want to move 2,000 tonnes, we automatically have 1,000 tonnes, and we therefore have to apply for another 1,000 tonnes. I'm not very good at mathematics, so bear with me. So that would give us our 2,000 tonnes. An excess tonnage request is just a one-page letter that you just fill out. It takes 5 minutes or less, and that accompanies your program of works. But as I'll go on to explain, it's assessed by a different department within the mines department. Your POW will be assessed by the Enviros, and the excess tonnage letter or excess tonnage request is assessed by Compliance Division. Okay, and therein lies a lot of the problem. I just wanted to say that anything that I talk about in these videos is based on my experiences, my opinions, and it wouldn't be the first time that I'm wrong. I'm more than happy to be wrong and be corrected by people that know more than me. So I'm just giving you what I know. Please reach out to us if I've made a blue, and I'll correct it. I've got no problems with that. That's how we all learn. Okay, having said that. Right, a prospector needs to be able to move dirt, okay? Most of the time we're not drilling and running sumps and what have you. Most of the time we're doing scrape and detect, dry blowing, surface work, that sort of thing. And even though 10,000 tonnes sounds like a lot of tonnage, and it is, but it's not. The thing to remember is that when they're calculating tonnage, they're calculating the area and then using a formula to convert that from volume to tonnage. So, and again, I'm no good at maths, but if you're working out volume of something, it's length times width times depth. And let's say that comes to 1,000 cubic metres. We don't talk in cubic metres, we talk in tonnes. So they use what's called a bulking factor, and the standard industry, remember safety third, the standard industry figure is 1.8 as a bulking factor. I don't like that bulking factor because with a little bit of experience in hard rock, that is actually not far from the correct. If you fill up a 1,000 litre pod full of quartz, it generally comes in at just under 2 tonne. It's about right. But we're not working hard rock, we're working alluvial, so it's light fluffy dirt. And in the program of works where we stipulate the bulking factor used, I usually just cross it out and I put a 1-to-1 ratio on it. I hope that sort of makes sense. So in the example I gave where we have 1,000 cubic metres, in principle, when we convert that or multiply that by the bulking factor of 1.8, we suddenly have 1,800 tonnes. What we really have is basically a halving of our allocated tonnage. So our projects are halved without even starting. And that's a huge problem. The mines department or the enviros, the reason why tonnages are an issue, and various people within the department have told me this face to face, it's about Aboriginal issues. Sorry, but it is. And what they're doing is basically keeping the Aboriginal groups happy. I don't think that's an unfair thing to say, so that they can continue with their expedited procedure and tenements can get granted and work can get done. You don't have to go back too long ago before we had the expedited procedure and you had tenements that were being in negotiation with ABS for 6-7 years. So there's downsides of the system as it currently stands, but it's probably worth it in the bigger picture. So basically, all you are ever going to get on a tenement is 10,000 tonnes. Okay, that's it, on a P or an E. Remember, M's unlimited. And I'm slowly getting around to the point that I'm trying to make. But basically, the amount of tonnage that is granted, the excess tonnage that is granted on a tenement, is cumulative, and it builds up to 10,000 tonnes, and that's it. This is also, on areas that have a native title claimant group over it. If it does not have a native title claimant group over the ground, then that 10,000 tonnes in principle does not apply, and you could go up to 50,000 tonnes, 100,000 tonnes, something like that. That's certainly what the case was a few years ago, but policy changes all the time within the government department, and that I think you'd have a hard time getting up. So we're going to go where the majority of areas which has got a claimant group over now, we'll go with that. And so, righto, you got 10,000 tonnes. I want to do a bit of a scrape and detect. I'm applying for 2,000 tonnes. Happy days. I'm only going to, and you only wind up using 500 tonnes. Doesn't matter. You've had 2,000 tonnes approved. You go back next year, you get another 2,000 tonnes. Away you go. You do this over a number of years. You've got to try on a different part of the block now. You've got a 200 hectare P. Oh, I want 3,000 tonnes over here. I want 2,000 tonnes over here. And all of a sudden you've hit 10,000 tonnes, and that's it. Once you hit 10,000 tonnes, you are completely rooted. The only way you're going to get allocated more excess tonnage is by then negotiating with the native title claimant group. Good luck with that. having been down that path, and it's only been my experience, basically emails, phone calls, they're not even returned, they're not interested. It's too hard. So then you've got two options. Or you actually got three options. One is to peg an SPL in say your wife's name or husband's name, whatever. And once that becomes live, in principle, that'll give you another 10,000 tonnes. So you can work it on SPLs, but don't forget that every SPL application is a new application, and if there's native title considerations, you're going to have to go through that first. So that's a pain in the arse. You could drop the tenement entirely and do a shuffle on it, but then you've got a new application. It's going to be pending, rated by every bugger in within 100 kilometres, and more importantly, it's a new application, so you're going to have to go through native title again. You can convert it to a mining lease, is probably your third main option, but that's where your expenses go up through the roof a lot. You've got to get the block surveyed. To give you an example, the 200 hectare block is going to cost you, instead of about $1,000 a year of real money leaving your back pocket, will suddenly cost you about $8,000 a year of back pocket. Plus, the mining lease is a new application, so you're going to have to go through the native title considerations again. As you can see, if you're moving a lot of dirt or you're on a good lease and you want to move a lot of dirt, it's basically a real tricky point. So where does the problem come into it? Well, what I find is that I always ask for more tonnage than I think I'll need. Because don't forget that all your slewing areas, tracks in and out, campsites, anything that time you move a rock basically, that's included in your disturbance footprint and therefore in your tonnage area. So to say you're going to go in and move 50 millimetres of dirt over a 2 hectare area, it's just not going to happen like that. The other problem is you need to get a bigger area than you think you need, because if you're working dirt and you suddenly get onto a little bit of metal, you don't want to stop and apply for further POWs, because in principle it's about 4 weeks, but at the moment 6-7 weeks is not uncommon. They've completely lost it in with the enviros. It's a bit out of control at the moment. In fairness, we're in the middle of a mining boom, and I'm sure COVID will play a part as well, which has buggered up a lot of things. So I do anyway. I tend to ask for more than I need, so I've got my backside covered, because what I cannot afford to do is to have projects stalling and machinery mobilised out bush while I'm waiting for 6 weeks for someone to sign off on a POW. The obvious answer for that is the low impact notification only, if that ever comes about, where we just sort of notify and keep working. That would be a game changer for prospectors. So we do ask for more than we want, but this will bite you on the arse, because I'm getting to the main point that I'm trying to make, is that when we do a rehabilitation report on areas, we say how much work we have actually done. We have disturbed so many tonnes and so many hectares or square metres, whatever. But there's no reconciliation between the amount of work we have actually done and the work we have actually applied for. This is the big trap. So I will always ask for more tonnage and area than I need, but 8 times out of 10 I use a fraction of what I've asked for, simply because the gold's not there. All right, and 6 or 7 projects out of 10 are going to be duffers. There's not going to be anything there. So I've asked for 2,000 tonnes. I've moved 200 tonnes. But there's no reconciliation There's no accountability between the enviros and compliance, and so my approval for disturbing 2,000 tonnes comes off automatically my potential maximum of 10,000 tonnes. Hope that makes sense. What that means is if you have a 200 hectare tenement or what have you, and you've got several sites you want to work, you can basically, and this is for the life of the tenement, you can snooker yourself within the matter of a season. Okay, you've worked areas, you've tried to do the right thing, you've tried to get a little bit of extra in case you get onto a bit of gold. But if you've gone up to your 10,000 tonnes, that's it, mate. Your tenement's buggered. Hopefully that makes sense. It also is of relevance. A lot of people are buying tenements these days. Right? You need to go into mineral titles online, which is a very important database that you need to make yourself aware of. You look under the section called dealings and see, and before you even think about buying a tenement, see how much excess tonnage has been applied for. Because let's say it's full amount, 9,500 tonnes on a P, plus your 500 tonnes that you automatically get, there's your 10,000 tonnes. And if those POWs are in the wrong spot or have been signed off and rehabilitated and the paperwork sent in, that tenement is worth nothing to you in terms of moving dirt. It's only metal detecting. It's pretty unlikely there's going to be any gold left that way anyway. So that's just a bit of a common trap. Where's the problem? Well, the problem, as I said, is that conversation between compliance and the enviros. I have no doubt, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, by the way, but I've no doubt that this is well and truly orchestrated. I have spoken with people within the compliance division about this very matter, and their response is the hands go in the air and say, look, we have no conversation, we have no communications with the enviros, two separate divisions, not our problem. The problem is, as I said, there's no communications or there's no cross-referencing or what have you between the two groups, so that the ground or the tonnage is given. Once you hit that 10,000, that's your cut-off, and it doesn't matter on the enviro side what's actually happening. So what I'd say, and I would actually love APLA to get involved in this one, because this is something that APLA could take up the baton for, and it would really help prospectors and tenement holders. It really would. It's one of the reasons I put this into a little video, because it's quite a hard one to explain, and there wouldn't be too many people sort of within APLA that would actually be affected by this, so they wouldn't quite get it. So I'm trying to explain it. What would help prospectors a lot is if the magical 10,000 tonne limit is based on our reporting of what goes on. So we apply and approve for 5,000 tonnes. We write back and we say, look, we finished that project, mate. We've only moved 1,000 tonnes. Okay, therefore, no worries, mate, you've still got your 9,000 tonnes to go. Instead of, you've only got 5,000 tonnes to go. And I know that there's other complications within that, because the POW is valid for the life of the tenement. But what it does is it will encourage a prospector to rehabilitate and sign off on one area and then move on to the next. Because at the moment, if there's no incentive to sign off, well, you just leave it going. I mean, you cop it a bit on the MRF reporting, but that's no biggie. It would give prospectors a lot more flexibility, a lot more opportunity to be working their ground, and it would actually be, and I'm not saying it's without complication, but it would be a massive leap forward for prospectors who actually do work their tenements. Okay, so if someone in Apla could have a consideration and have a think about that, I'm happy to talk with them at any stage, and maybe take that up. It would be a good one. I hope I've explained it well enough. It's a bit of a tricky one, and I know it's a dry old bloody story, but as I said, it is something that affects us. Lisa and I, and that's where I'm heading today, we're sort of been flat out on one of our tenements, pulling in a bit of tiny shiny, and that's always good. And we're just heading back down there now to continue work. We slept in a bit. It's a nice Sunday morning and the weather's beautiful. We've got our 3-day training courses on at the moment up in Leonora, so we're seeing quite a few of you coming up for those. And we've got our Mandurah 1-day courses starting up again in October. And I just wanted to say, I'm not using this as a platform to promote it. I'm just saying that we're in that unique situation because we are working prospectors. We can talk about most issues. And if there's any sort of subjects that you want brought up or discussed or sort of educated on, we're happy to incorporate those into the 1-day courses, or come down and do a talk at one of your Apla meetings or Detector Club meetings. No problems at all. It doesn't matter what the subject is. Apart from driving shafts and underground mining, because I won't do that, but most of the other subjects we're pretty clued up on, and we're always happy to talk it through with you. So if there's anything you need to know, just reach out and we'll incorporate it into those 1-day courses. So that's October, starting up again, and we're looking forward to those and spending some time down by the water. So thanks very much, prospectors. I know that was a dry story, but I really hope that might open your eyes up to some of the pitfalls around excess tonnage. Take it easy. See ya.